Hey there boaters, Lenny here for BoatUS, and today we're going to talk about small boat safety gear. Now, there are really two kinds of small boat safety gear. The gear that's required and the gear that's just plain smart to have on board. This is my 16-foot crabbing skiff. It's a small boat. There's not a whole lot of room for storing items, so you're going to notice almost everything in this cooler box is related to safety. Okay people, let's dig around in here and see what we've got. First off, right on top, because it must always be easily accessible, is our Coast Guard approved throw cushion. And then we've got life jackets. Don't forget, you need to have a life jacket in good shape, properly fitting for everybody aboard. Now, if you have kids coming out and you don't have kids' life jackets, also remember the BoatUS Foundation does have a loaner program. They have way over 500 locations, so it's easy to get a hold of one. As we keep going through here, we're going to find goodies like running and nav lights and an anchor light. Now, these are only necessary at night or in reduced visibility, but hey, you never know when weather or mechanical failure is going to leave you out on the water way past when you expected. Same goes for flares. Got to have them too, just in case. Of course, you can also have an electronic flare. That does the trick too. Oh, and look, here's a paddle. Now, this is certainly not a required safety device on this boat, but let me tell you what, you would not believe how often your boat breaks down within paddling distance of somewhere close by, be it a dock or your slip, so always good to have on board. Let's see, we've also got our fire extinguisher here. Now, again, this is not required gear on this boat. Each boat is different, but if the boat does not have an enclosed compartment that can gather fumes or an enclosed fuel tank, it's not strictly prescribed. Of course, you know, could it ever be considered a bad idea to have a fire extinguisher? I don't think so. So there's one on this boat. More required gear here. There's a whistle. You must have a sound producing device. Yelling does not count. Now, this is not required item, a well-stocked first aid kit. I don't know why it's not required. Honestly, it should be. Believe me, people, if you put one of these on your boat, you absolutely, positively will be using it one day. Get yourself a good first aid kit. Make sure it's watertight too, so all the bandages and band-aids don't get saturated. So what else we got? We've covered all the required items, but you know what? Suntan lotion, that is definitely something you want to have aboard. Always a good idea to have some extra water. You know, one thing that I find comes in handy more than you think is an extra pair of sunglasses, maybe an extra hat. Now, we've pretty much gone through everything in the box here. The only items that aren't safety gear are my crabbing gloves and my crab measure. All right, hold on people, whoa. Don't click that comment button just yet. I know what you're thinking. You can't take a cooler like this, load it up with gear and leave it on a boat like this. It'll get wet inside in no time, heck, just condensation. And then you got a big mess on your hands. Well, that's absolutely true, but there's an easy way to turn a cooler like this into a vented box. You just have to add vents. And if you want to see all about how to do it, just go to the description. We have a link to an article that we've done showing how to turn a cooler box into a boat box. That takes care of all the goodies in my safety box, but there's more. There's still a few items aboard this boat we need to talk about, most important of which being your handheld VHF. Now, it's true that in some areas of the nation, a cell phone is almost as good as a VHF. It's always a good idea to have one on hand. You know, it's the maritime services that monitor the VHF, not to mention, you know, if you have a real emergency in an area where VHF is monitored, it is the fastest way to contact the Coast Guard. Bet you don't have that number programmed into your cell phone, do you? Let's see, we've also got our handy dandy baler back here. The boat has a bilge pump, but bilge pumps do fail. And on any boat, it's always a good idea to have a baler on hand, even if it's just a bucket. Finally, let's not forget about the ECOS. A small open boat like this one certainly is required by law to have one. And not only that, you have to be wearing it while the boat is in operation. Finally, you're going to want to make sure you have an anchor aboard. Some people don't call that safety gear, but the truth of the matter is if you're drifting at a rock jetty and you don't have power, you're going to want an anchor. And then, of course, you know, we could talk about PLBs, EPIRBs, offshore life jackets, a lot of other safety gear that is generally used on bigger boats that are going out into more open waters. Honestly, this little boat has no business going out into big open waters, so I don't have that kind of gear aboard. Well, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I really hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to leave your comments below, click to like, click to subscribe, and I got one final tip for you. This is a great one for you small boat owners. If you have a breakdown problem, let's say your VHF doesn't work, your cell phone fell overboard, who knows, you need a signal for help. Jumping and yelling and waving usually doesn't help because people think you're waving and they tend to wave back and keep going. But if you need to get some attention, take an extra life jacket, tie it off to something on a pole, like this crab net, which I always have aboard this boat because I use it to go crabbing. Then, after you got it on there, raise it up overhead and just slowly go back and forth. Just about anybody will get the message that you need a hand.